Hello, it's another Qigong tip. Today we're going to be learning a core Qigong movement called cloud hands. Cloud hands. It's partly because when you do it, you gradually begin to feel as if your hand is not only being lifted by a cloud, but it feels as if it's holding a cloud, or that your hands become somehow very light. Okay? So one hand will become very light, and one hand will become very heavy. Okay? So again, this separation of kind of quality, one hand being light, one hand being heavy. We're also going to use a wider stance again. So this time when we shift our weight, we're again going to want to have that sloshing of the fluid. So let's return to that practice. But now let's add something. We're going to add what's known as qua turning, qua folding. Now, there's no exact English equivalent to qua, the Chinese term. But what it really means is all of the tissues, all of the energetic connections that exist in the inguinal groove, this area deep inside here. And so what you do when you turn is that you deepen that groove. Now the best way to do it is to slightly sit down as you turn into it. If you're up tight, the groove remains tight. If you lower your hips a little, then as you turn, you can sink into that. This has a lot of benefits for people dealing with cancer because this area is loaded with lymph nodes. So when you put compression into these areas, you're stimulating lymphatic flow. Okay? So one way to feel that is if you put your little fingers in those grooves as you turn, you want to feel like you're catching your little finger. Okay? Now again, as you do this, you want to feel that ball in the back of the knee so that when you weight one leg, you're very careful to make sure that you keep a sense of inflation in the back of the knee. Okay? Now when you turn into the qua, what you avoid is twisting the knees. Okay? In Qigong and Tai Chi, we always want to be very careful not to twist the knees. Qigong and Tai Chi should be knee health promoting, not knee threatening. So you want to feel that when you turn, the knee stays right over the toes. Okay? Now you also want to, as you turn, you want to keep the inner shoulders aligned with the inner hips, what you might call a shirt box. Okay? So the tendency when you turn is to turn from the shoulders, to turn the shoulders more than you turn the hips, because the hips are not as flexible as the shoulders, but you want to keep them together. You have to be disciplined and keep them together. What this does is it avoids putting any strain, any twisting into the spine, so that the spine and the knees remain free of difficulty. Okay? So once you do that, then you can not only slosh, but you can begin to turn it as you do that. And you'll find that you get a stronger, longer wave, because the turning makes more room for the wave to extend. Now another part of this is that when you shift side to side, just going back to the very simple shifting, if when you shift onto a leg, if you put your weight onto the very back of that heel, so shift and really focus the weight on the very back of the heel. There's an acupuncture point at the back of the heel. When you put pressure on that, it causes chi to sink in the body. So it's a really sweet tool for making the chi flow stronger. Now, likewise, there's a chi point on the front of the arch, just behind the pads behind the toes, called the bubbling well point. And if, as you shift onto the heel, if you slightly press down, very slightly press down on the ball of that foot as you shift, it's almost like you're pressing your weight over by pressing down on the ball of that foot. That's going to cause chi to rise up one leg and sink down the other. So if we do that back and forth, you can use your hands, one moving backwards and pressing down with the heel of the hand, and the other using your fingertips and pressing into the ball of the foot. You'll find that you get a stronger chi flow. Again, the chi is going to come up the inside of the unweighted leg and go down the outside of the weighted leg. So just practice that for a little bit. Get the feeling of that before we add anything else. Now, just using one arm, as we shift out of one leg, that arm on that side is going to come around to the belly and then come up the center line of the body, in front of the chin. And then it's going to descend down the center line to the belly, go around, and it's going to press down without force, but just with a sense of pressing down, again into the back of the heel. So hand rising, weight going on the ball of the foot, and sinking, weight going into the back of the heel. So just get that pattern established. Allowing the movement of the arm to synchronize with the sense of the wave of chi moving across your body. So let the sense of chi rising cause the hand to rise. Let's see if you can catch a sense of a wave of chi coming up the inside of the leg, coming up the back, coming out across the shoulder, coming out the outside of the arm to the fingertips. And then it flows along the inside of the arm, down the front of the body, through the quad, and down the outside of the leg. Just gradually feeling for that pathway of flow. And then do the other side. Now, as you do that, you can put your other hand over your battery. The Chinese term for the battery is Dan, D-A-N, Tian, T-I-E-N, Dan Tian. It has a technical meaning that's really only meaningful to the Chinese culture. So I think just calling it our battery does just fine. But it's sometimes nice to know the Chinese words, Dan Tian. And then start with one hand up, one hand down. Now, the way you simplify this is that each time you focus your attention on the downward hand. So instead of having to try to coordinate, you let the flow and motion of the downward hand promote the upward rising of the other hand. So you're just attending to one arm or the other, not both. And to start off slowly. It's easier to pay attention if you move slowly. Feeling for the wave across the body, feeling for the wave coming up the body. And then shifting your attention to feeling a wave coming down the body, coming down the front of the body, going down the outside of the leg, into the back.